Hello, Bavin here, and today is going to be my first ever actual in-depth killer guide, and today it's going to star Dredge, our favorite turkey that we all know and love. Okay, so I have been playing Dead by Daylight ever since launch, and Dredge was one of those killers that once they came out, I was like addicted to playing Dredge. Dredge, in general, is a hybrid type killer, as in he doesn't have any meta defining effects. However, he is remarkable in doing a lot of different things that make up for him not having a specific meta defining ability. Okay, so this video is gonna highlight the basics of this killer initially, and then I'm gonna go over into really in-depth techs and strategies you can do with this killer, and I'm also gonna show off and explain the best add-ons that stand out for Dredge and the best builds you're going to want to run for this killer. I will recommend free to play. I will recommend free to grind to play, however you want to call it. And I'm going to recommend, let's say if you have every perk in the game, I'm going to recommend the best builds you can run for Dredge. Okay, and let's get started. And just in case if you're really new as Dredge, I'm going to go over the quick fundamentals of this killer. Really simple. He moves 4.6 meters a second, aka 15% quicker than a survivor, and he has a tear radius of 32 meters. So the first aspect of Dredge's power is that he can teleport to any locker on the entire map by default 3 times in one go. As you can see, it takes a considerably long amount of time. Survivors can also lock the locker to hinder your progress for quite a bit. This actually will deny you getting a quick ambush on a survivor. However, once a survivor locks the locker, if you break out of a locker or if you just swing and break the handle, it's gone forever and you never have to worry about that locker being locked. But as you can see right here, no matter what, if there are 2 lockers right next to each other and one of them is locked, the game will always force you into that locked locker, so always be wary of that. Once Dredge teleports to a locker, he will make a loud thud sound, and eventually the locker will engulf in fog. So I recommend to immediately initiate a chase once you teleport where you want to be at. Don't sit in the locker. Once you leave a locker as Dredge, you'll be forced in a pretty hefty cooldown, which eventually becomes really quick with Nightfall. And speaking of which, let's get right into Nightfall. Okay, so Nightfall is a passive aspect of Dredge's power where he becomes a Thanksgiving crackhead during this time. Dredge becomes the fastest killer in the entire game via teleporting. Every time he goes into a locker, even if you use all 3 tokens, he will get a killer instinct of wherever a survivor is near the locker. And as of right now, killer instinct is something that cannot be countered in the game, so it is guaranteed info to know which locker you should immediately hop out of. Dredge is also undetectable during this time, which means if survivors have any aura reading, they cannot see Dredge. RIP console players, because the survivor's screen will become black and it's really hard to see where the Dredge is. Dredge will be visible within 24 meters of the darkness effect happening. However, the survivors can see each other like within 54 meters, if I'm not mistaken. If anyone out there is a hardcore Dredge player, let me know if that's correct. But yeah, Nightfall is a time of night where you want to take full advantage of the full duration of Nightfall. Don't do anything that wastes time unless it's beneficial. Like if you down a survivor and you know there's a survivor nearby, let's say if you have aura reading perks like barbecue and chili or gearhead, slug the survivor, go immediately and teleport across the map in literally a second, pop out of the locker and you will get a quick hit. Make as much use as you can of Nightfall if you can. So now you know everything about Dredge's teleporting. So what do you do after you come out of that locker and start finding or chasing a survivor? You're going to use Dredge's other power called the Remnant. So what the Remnant is that Dredge puts down like this foggy hand fetish portal, and what it does is that the last direction you were looking at when you use the active ability button, if you press the attack button, you will teleport facing that direction. You are going to use this to shut down every single loop in the corner of the maps, and you're going to use this to make the pathing on the survivors very difficult on every other loop in the entire game that can actually eventually lead into a guaranteed hit. There is no penalty for just placing the power down. You can spam it if you want. If you make a mistake, cancel it. You won't suffer anything about it. And allow me to demonstrate the universal ways of how to use this power in a nutshell. So let's say you have a pallet's like this. One thing to this is what you do not do if you're going to use a Remnant and chase. Do not do this. Do not put a Remnant on this side. Always put it on the pallet side. And this is why. So let's say if you're over here, the survivor's in the middle of the pallet, the survivor's right there, you do that, and they're over there. What is that survivor going to do? Once they're on this side of the pallet, they see you doing that, they're just going to quickly run around here and then run to this pallet. They're going to hold W. And the thing about Dredge is that you move slower than the survivor. I think it's 10% slower than a survivor, so the survivor can just gun it to another loop next by. So this is what you do. You're going to quickly do like that, and immediately the survivor's caught off guard, and they have to run into your remnant, or they're going to have to play 50-50 with you, and that is not going to be good on their end. Your biggest counter to Dredge that survivor's going to do to you is just to hold W. This means that once you do this, survivors know that you're slow, so they're going to try to gun it. So let's say if a survivor's looping this and you use your power right there, they might just gun it over here. Let's say if there was a pallet over here, they might gun it and loop this now. You always want to use your remnant if it's in the corner of the map. So for an example, this pallet's in the corner of the map, survivor can't link anywhere, force the pallet drop, so it's even easier on you. So let's say if this pallet's down, you're going to quickly go, like, you're going to put a remnant right here. The reason why you're putting it far back over here is of two things. If the pallet's down, they're going to have to vault it or play 50-50. If they vault it, you teleport here, swing and hit them. They might try to hold W away and go over here. Since your remnant is so far over here, if you teleport here, they have nowhere to go. Okay, so now what does the remnant do during Nightfall? It's actually really simple, but really effective. So what it does, it's really it's kind of similar to the lockers. If you activate your remnant and teleport to it, you will, within 16 meters of the remnant, you will see Killer Instinct. And I've already said before, Killer Instinct cannot be countered. It's guaranteed information. So I'm going to give you another fun fact. Even if survivors are inside of lockers, the remnant still senses them, or the Killer Instinct from the Nightfall still senses them in there. This is really good info, folks. Okay, so that is all you need to know about Dredge initially. Now let's get into what are the best add-ons, perks, and both combos of the two. And let me tell you, this killer can actually get very versatile in ways you probably have never even expected. The first add-on I recommend is Maulthinker's Skull. So what this add-on does, it increases the charge rate of Nightfall by 66% every second when there's a survivor injured anywhere on the board. And this is really good paired with Sloppy Butcher as a perk. Sloppy Butcher gives survivors Mangled and Hemorrhage. Mangled makes it where it takes 25% longer to heal. Hemorrhage, if you disrupt the healing, the bar goes down. And then you can pair that add-on with the Broken Doll. What this does, this increases the duration of Nightfall by 20 seconds. Maulthinker's Skull makes her Nightfall activates more. Broken Doll, Nightfall activates longer. You can pair the Broken Doll add-on with the perk Mindbreaker, and this will feel really crippling on the survivor's end. For quality of life, I recommend Hattie's Calendar. This makes it where you jump out of lockers, or locked lockers, 1 second quicker. Yeah, you can see how good this is. And then the next add-on you can run with that would be a Boat's Key. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. Sorry if I just fumbled that. It's Boat's Key. This means that you teleport 25% quicker when not in Nightfall. So you kind of get that little bit of edge of Nightfall throughout the entire game in mobility. And I'm pretty sure you're the third or second fastest killer in the game with that add-on, so that is a really good bonus. And that add-on does something else. All the locks are completely broken, so Hattie's Calendar makes them useless during the game, and then the Boat Key secures that end game. And you know what that means? You can run a couple of end game perks to help you, like No-Ed and No Way Out, and that is like a devastating combo of only 2 perks and 2 add-ons, and you have 2 other perks you could run in the other game. If you want to crush the hopes of survivors, run the Lavalier Microphone. I think that's what it's called. What this does is that after you use your third teleport from a locker, you see all survivors' auras for 3 seconds, but it also has a secondary effect. All lockers within survivors will open and close, and this is extremely monstrous if you're running Dead Man Switch. And as you can see, I'm pretty excited to say this because I do have a video that's coming out showcasing that synergy, and it goes completely bonkers. Okay, one add-on that I feel like deserves to show so much love because I don't see anyone use it, and it's actually a brown add-on that Dredge has. But what this does, it gives you that Nightfall Remnant effect where you get Killer Instinct around the Remnant when you're in Nightfall and when you're not in Nightfall. This is so good for your early game. This is so good when you have downtime and you can't find anyone. This is so good if you're in a main building or indoors and someone just Houdini'd out of there and quickly teleport to your remnant, immediately just spam that, and then you can find them. Like, I get so good usage out of that add-on, and I wish a lot of people saw how good it actually can be. Okay, so with the combos aside, let's go into like what universally for Dredge, what is the best perks you should always be running? First one, you always want to help Dredge's early game. Remember, he doesn't have Nightfall early game by default, so Corrupt Intervention is like a must need if you want to snowball with the Nightfall. Dredge has really good mobility, so for gen defense, I recommend Pop Goes the Weasel. This just obliterates 30% of a generator's progress every time you hook a survivor when you kick that generator. If you want to go for lethality, there is a new perk that Chucky has called Friends to the End. This makes it when you hook a survivor, the obsession is instant downable, and if you hook the obsession, some random person screams. If you're running that, you can pair this with that build I was talking about before with Maulthinker's Skull with Sloppy Butcher, so you hurt the survivors for healing, and you are crippling them when they're not. And then the other lethality perk is Make Your Choice. This is really nutty for two different reasons. The first reason is you have mobility, so you can always double back to the hook when the survivor gets unhooked. When that survivor gets unhooked from far away, which is so easy to do against a Dredge, they will become exposed, so you can just teleport back. But there's this one strategy that's completely messed up that a lot of people say in my Dredge videos for me to do because it's funny, and but you're evil if you do it. And that is when Make Your Choice is active, when you hook a survivor, go out of line of sight, put a Remnant down right next to the hook, and just stroll away. And once you see that survivor get unhooked, immediately teleport back, and you'll get like a slight camping penalty, but it's not enough to stop you from downing that survivor immediately, and it's so funny to do. So with all that, we learned that Dredge is very impactful in the mobility aspect of the game, and he's a killer that can do really quick chases and quick downs in the process. And like you saw fluttered around a little bit in the writing, Dredge is really impactful in the hit and run playstyle. You always want to use your teleport to go towards survivors that are doing the objective right after you hook someone, or potentially if you want to go for a slug after you down someone, to be really overwhelming. Remember, this game is 4v1, but Dredge is one of those really rare few killers that can be so overwhelming, including with Nightfall, that it literally feels like a 4v4 in the survivors because of how unpredictable you are, including if you do a lot of Remnant mind games around the corner, or you break line of sight so survivors can't react as quickly when they initially see your arm sticking out. And again, with the really fast mobility, you can have insane crowd control of teleporting everywhere, and there are some add-ons that can make that even more overwhelming and impactful. Again, with the highlighted unpredictable movement, Dredge, in my opinion, and in my gaming, in my Dead by Daylight gaming experience of playing the game, he is one of the easiest killers to snowball or pressure the survivors into. And it's kind of like a spider web where all the survivors are like baby wolf spiders, and the Dredge is just a tarantula playing with its prey while slowly eating away at their appendages. Nothing is more scarier than a killer that is incredibly unpredictable while you're as a survivor in a really big, heavy, pressured scenario where you have to make choices that can even be lose-lose in your favor as a survivor player. One thing that Dredge can actually do really well that sometimes even I don't think about is that Dredge can always resort to like an area control. So let's say if you have someone on a hook and someone is down on, like, let's say the map is a square, right? And someone is hooked right here and someone is down right here. As Dredge, you can proxy around the hook area and always teleport everywhere near the down survivor and just hold that entire area down. Or let's say let's say you have really good pressure, but the survivors are just keeping up with the generators. You can also area control really well in a 3-gen. And remember, the locks on lockers disappear after one usage. When the survivor uses it, it's gone forever after you break it, and they no longer have like the safeness of being in that area anymore, and that is the area they have to be in. So they're kind of in a horrible bear cave or a bear den, and the bear is you and you're hungry. One thing that's really interesting in the gameplay of Dredge is that you want to have different mindsets based on what you're doing. If you are using your mobility and pressuring, you want to kind of a little bit overdo it. You want to be really overwhelming, but make sure you're getting benefits off of it. But when you're chasing as Dredge, it's actually the exact opposite. You want to be really patient and you want to time the Remnant. For example, like I said before, you want to use your Remnant on the pallet side, never on the outskirts of loops, because that's where survivors will see that you have a Remnant there. They can see it clear as day and they're just going to book it, or they're just going to run on the other side of the pallet, and it wastes a lot of your time. If you're really patient with it, and if you let's say if you're in the loops where there's walls and windows, you can always put remnants and teleport to them outside of view, and this will make you even more unpredictable in situations where survivors against a normal M1 killer will always have the advantage. Make sure to always form your remnants in a way where they can easily close the gap on a survivor. If you and your remnant is far away, the survivor has so many options to do something while you are actually kind of limited to your previous remnant placement. One mind game with the remnant kind of goes back to what I said about patience. Once you put your remnant down and you're holding your hand up and let's say again, the remnant is at the pallet side, survivors on the other side of the loop and you're going the other way. Some survivors will actually try to fake you by trying to run into the remnant and then quickly double back. This will probably catch you at least once in your Dredge life, because it definitely has happened to me. The most popular counterplay, I said this recently, is holding W or the survivor just running away from the loop. See, this, in my experience, is inevitable. Survivors will always hold W against a Dredge. However, this does not mean that you're going to be cucked inevitably. No, you can actually manipulate this in two different ways that help me a lot to deal with survivors that hold W against my remnant. Okay, the first one is look at your positioning. Where are you in the survivor, right? So let's say if you're at a tile, let's say, again, the map is a square. Let's say the tile is right here, kind of in the middle, but a little bit to the right? And let's say you're looping there. You can place your remnant in a way that forces the survivor to have to run to a corner of the map. And this is where Dredge guarantees a hit. So how do you do this exactly? It's actually a lot simpler than you think. So what you would do, you would put a remnant in on the pallet side or window side, whatever tile it is, whatever the strongest part is. And then you have that remnant a little bit outward, so it's covering a whole W angle into the inside of the map, while your Dredge body goes the other way around the tile, forcing the survivor to have to zone themselves or play a really dangerous 50-50. The other way is if you're at a loop and there's other tiles around you, but they all have lockers and really vital parts, you can kind of bait the survivor into running into those loops, and you can just jump out of a locker around the corner. This is really, really good and strong on indoor maps, and if you play this right, this will get you downs so quick, and the survivors are just gonna die. Lastly, to keep in mind is that Dredge is a very original playstyle killer. Like, even stuff that I don't mention right now, you may find new stuff on your own, and that's what I really like about a lot of the killers of DBD, and that's why Dredge is one of my most played at the moment, and it used to be. I used to be a Dredge addict. I said at the beginning of the video. It's because it's true. Dredge promotes so much original plays, original strategies, and the counterplay the survivors have is also original in themselves. So if you go up against really good survivors, it's always a fun time because you're trying to create original strategies while the survivors are trying to counterplay with their own originalness, if that makes sense. Again, the one thing I just love about Dredge is that you want to master your opponent and always take advantage of every weakness they show or any signs of planning they may have. Alright, and that will conclude this Dredge video. And hey, if you're still watching, that means you're really interested in this character, right? But guess what? I have a couple facts I want to share with you about Dredge that are actually really fun and really perverted. Okay, so the first fact is this Dredge skin right here. So this Dredge skin was actually going to be the original Dredge cosmetic, but the devs didn't want to gravitate towards the idea of Goat C. I would say don't Google it, but I already know you're going to, so the only person you can blame is your intrusive thoughts. Okay, for this fun fact is actually kind of funny. It actually has to do with Dredge's voice acting. Yeah, Dredge has voices, by the way. It's like the wailing souls you hear when when Nightfall starts happening. And here are all the voice actors that took part in that. The voice actor for Lisa Garland, which is a legendary skin for Cheryl. And then a voice actor for Nemesis took part of it, which is hilarious. And then the voice actor who did the Nemesis female zombie voice. And then lastly, a voice actor who does Night. That is a group of people I don't want to be in a room with. Okay, this last fun fact actually has to do with the lore. So if you guys are interested about the lore of Dredge, this is something you need to hear. Okay, so read this, right? So this says right here. Okay, so Dredge, if you don't know what Dredge is, he's basically like a amalgamation conglomerate of a possessed cult that was led by Otto Stamper. Okay, so Otter Stamper, get this. Otter Stamper, allegedly, in the lore, was Herman Carter's, aka the Doctor, which is the most crazy, insane, and like lowest of the low person in the DBD roster. He was Herman Carter's mentor. There is so many questions I have about this. And all of this happened in Larry's Memorial Institute, which is where the Doctor was located. And this opens up like a lot of weird like revelations that could have happened and intertwined the two. And yeah, that will do it. So this is an entire guide to Dredge. And again, I'm just going to recap some things. Dredge, the reason why Dredge is the first guide, because in my opinion, he is the most fun killer. He is the most fun hybrid killer. He's not extremely meta defining, and he can do so much. So there's like limitless builds, limitless strategies. The entire killer is original in playstyle. There's nothing you're doing that is going to be consistently static. It's all up to what your brain wants to do in that specific moment. Another really good thing that kind of shout out to me to make this guide is that Dredge, according to the game, is one of the most balanced killers right now, and I kind of agree, but that's not the point. The point is that the devs are not going to change this killer anytime soon, and there's been also some Q&As about Dredge, and Dredge was never like a hot topic to the developers. They said he's kind of in a good place, which means that this guide hopefully should age like wine and not like milk. I'll see you in the next one. And what kind of other guide would you like to see in the future? Please let me know in the comments below. Bye-bye.